888-866-9876. The big fat poll of the day is a simple one. Everybody's excited about the Longhorns' big victory over almost jinxed them, over Colorado State. They're hoping that they can get a win over Tennessee. I almost jinxed them right there. Over Colorado State, they're going to be facing Tennessee on Saturday, the Texas men. And my man Patrick wants to know on the big fat poll of the day, who's going to be the leading scorer for Texas versus Tennessee? The leading scorers in the game versus Colorado State still ended up being Dessou and Asmus.
They did.
Both of them had which is crazy to think because they started out so ice cold, but they ended on hot streaks in that game. We'll get to reviewing Texas performance versus Colorado State with the big fat poll today. Wants to know who's going to be the leading scorer versus Tennessee for the Texas men in their second round matchup versus the Volunteers. Kendall Weaver had a hell of, he was close. I mean, Kendall Weaver, he was close.
His shooting
percentage,
way more
efficient too.
Yeah, his shooting percentage much better because Dylan Dessou was 5 of 18, Max Asmus was 5 of 15, Kendall Weaver 5 of 7. So just right there, he was more effective in his minutes when he got in there. But yeah, they kept feeding the ball to Dessou and Asmus all game. Yeah. But again, it's one of those games. If you said your Asmus and Dessou are going to go 10 for 33, you go, oh no, well, that's not good.
Oh, no.
That can't happen.
Oh no,
and you'll still get
Dessou got in foul trouble. I was like, oh no,
and you'll still have a double-digit win.
That, like I said, there were a lot of things that happened in that game that we discussed. Like, if these things happen in combination, right? If these things happen at the same time, Texas may be in trouble. Dessou did get in foul trouble. Max Asmus didn't have it; he was off. If you had told me those two things were both going to happen in the game, I'd been like, man, Texas might be in trouble.
They hit one
Texas
3-pointer.
Not in trouble at all.
One 3-pointer. You'd say, well, that's when how many they shoot, and you go 14. Oh, well, we lost. We lost.
What you brought up, the 3 assists? How many assists? They only had 3. Just 3 assists. Just 3 of them. You were like, damn, only 3 assists? It means the offense must have been ugly. All right, you know what? I think Texas might lose that game. All 4 of those things happened in the game, and they blew them out.
What's funny, too, is, and I talked to Betty, the line seemed small the entire time, and I didn't think it should have been a 10-point line, but I thought it should have been around a 5-point line. I thought that was closer. And so when Colorado State made the push in the second half, you went, okay, this is around where we thought it was going to be. You thought it was going to be between 5 and 7 was about where that felt about right for what this Texas team has done this year, for it being a tournament game, for it being really hard to push away on some of these teams, especially teams that are, not automatic, they just didn't win their conference tournament and come from, a bad conference. So, there was a lot of pieces in there that you kind of went, this is as good as it could have gone for as bad as it could have gone.
Yeah, no, it's a great way of saying it. That's a very Dr. Seuss like way of saying it. It is. I agree with you because if you had told me those things, I was worried about Dessou getting in foul trouble. He got in foul trouble. You were worried about Max Asmus just having an off game. Max Asmus had an off game. Both of those things happened, and yet the collective, really the kind of energy and effort of the team overall, because the execution really wasn't there.
No,
defensively execution was there. I'm just offensively execution wasn't there. But your word of the day yesterday was effort, and they had an energy. And they had a ton of effort and a ton of energy. And that's what really led to them forcing a lot of turnovers. I believe they forced – I've seen 2 – the box score on ESPN says 19. And I've seen another box score that said 18. So not really sure. But I believe it's the second most turnovers they forced this season.
The official box score says 19 turnovers for Colorado State. The official box score.
Okay, yes. Okay, so 19 turnovers. It's the second most turnovers they've forced all season long. And they had – I believe the advantage on points over turnovers was 17-0.
17-0, yeah.
That's crazy.
Because
give Texas credit for actually being able to stonewall them when Texas turned the ball over.
And we said there was communication breakdowns in the second half, but if you watch that game, you could see when they were coming back, there was multiple times where there was good communication on transition defense of everyone getting a guy, staying ahead of their guys, and Colorado State just didn't push the ball fast enough. And, if you have guys like Tyrese Hunter and Dylan Mitchell, you're not going to outrun Dylan Mitchell back rim to rim. They didn't have any guys who were going to outrun Dylan Mitchell rim to rim. And so they had guys that could get back quick enough and make them slow it back down. They didn't feel confident going to the rim, Colorado State. And with those things, with Dylan Dessou on the court when he was playing, Shedrick can run the court pretty well. There's not really a big slow guy for Texas. So they were able to run the court well enough, stay in front of them, and they just weren't able to turn anything. I mean, 0 fast break points, 0 points off of turnovers.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's the athleticism of Texas showed in those situations. And I think Texas had fresher legs. Remember I said that, I mean, yesterday, the fatigue factor, just because I believe for Colorado State, it had been their 5th game in like 7 days, 8 days. So Texas had, some rests, and it didn't look that way early on. But then it definitely showed that Texas had fresher legs. And even late in that game, and we'll get to your Horn headlines here in a second and come back and discuss the game in a little bit more detail. But late in that game, I love the way Texas closed out this ugly game. It was an ugly performance, but they closed it out with their stars. I mean, Dylan Dessou and really Max Asmus. That's when you saw them when it was within 7. You said it got interesting, right? 39-32 is when it gets interesting. And from that point on, and the next 17 points that were scored, I believe 12 of them were Dylan Dessou and Max Asmus. At one point, it was just them. Okay, when it's 39-32, here are the points for Texas. Dessou jumper, Asmus jumper, Dessou free throw, Dessou jumper on Asmus assist, Dessou free throw. Then Weaver has 2 free throws, and then Dessou has a tip in, and Asmus has a free throw. And I think you got a Brock Cunningham a couple of free throws. But at one point to close out the game, when it got interesting, it wasn't officially clutch time. It was like winning time. Dessou and Max Asmus showed up for you in winning time, even though they really hadn't showed up for you for most of the game.
No, they hadn't. And I mean, that's at the end of the day, you can tell the 2 guys that Rodney Terry wants to trust. He was a guy they kept feeding the ball, even though they weren't hitting, but no one was hitting. So you're not going to feed anybody else necessarily the ball more than that. And this is the first time I've seen him fully put on a red light of 3-pointers. Rodney Terry in that first time out put on the red light because Tyrese Hunter shot 2 threes at the beginning of the game. That is the only player who shot a 3 other than Max Asmus and Dylan Dessou, who have a green light because you need them to hit threes to win in this tournament. So you're not gonna redline them because you say you guys have to. If you're open, you've hit them all season. I have to get you going because I can't keep winning in this tournament without you. But everybody else, no, you're done. No more threes. You're sitting on the bench as soon as you shoot a 3. And so there wasn't, Brock Cunningham, no threes. He would look at him, and then he would drive and try and go to the basket. Kendall Weaver, look at him, get to the basket. IT Horton, look at him, get to the basket. And that was, you just had to, every one of them, after that first time out, that they put a hard stop. No more threes. We're not hitting them. They're giving them to us. Just get to the paint. They're not big enough. They can't jump high enough. You can get in there and get much better shots, higher percentage shots. That changes against Tennessee, but at the same point, it was just I don't think I've seen that all season. Like there was 3 players that shot threes. Tyrese Hunter didn't shoot one after the first time out.
Wow.
And so the rest of them were Dessou and Mike Asmus. Rodney Terry just said no. Get to the basket.
That's a great point because I believe they were combined. They were like 1 of 14 or something, right, from 3-point.
Well, they were 1 of 12. The team was 1 of 14. 12, and then Tyrese Hunter missed 2 early on. But Asmus and Dylan Dessou, Max Asmus hit 1. And one of Dylan Dessou's was a shot clock, so I'll give him a little bit less. But he was 0 for 5 then. Because one of them there was like a second left on the shot clock and he had to throw something up. But the rest of them, he was getting open shots and he just wasn't able to hit them. But you can't, as a coach, you can't go to 2 guys that you go, when we're playing Tennessee, when we're playing hopefully in Sweet 16, I need you to hit threes. Like, we're not going to win without it. If you look at what Oakland did against Kentucky, it was a guy who just kept throwing the ball at the basket, and that was what ended up winning them the game. So he knows that you have to have that. So you don't want to kill their confidence by them shooting a bad and then telling them they can't even shoot that anymore. You want him to still have it. And Max Asmus' 1-3 was from the logo at the end of the first half.
Yeah.
That was his 1-3. Yeah. His 1-3 was a desperation from the logo at the end of the half shot. That was your 1-3 you hit the entire game. So it was, they were cold. I don't know what they're going to do in shoot around. I don't know, how much you try and change it around when you're, kind of shooting around the day. When you're going, I don't know if you take them to a different gym. If you go take them to a hard top court, you do whatever you can to change up what it is. If you run layup lines for 2 hours, you give them the mic and drill or whatever, just to get them to see the ball go through the hoop. But man, you're going to try whatever you can today to You're going to reward the defense, but just say, we got to keep that defensive intensity, that effort, all that has to stay. But, man, we got to hit some shots.
Yeah, no, it's actually a really good coaching situation for Rodney Terry, because you can criticize, you can and then praise too. You can praise the defense, praise the effort, and then you can still coach them real hard about their execution on the offensive side of the ball. All right, so we'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Let's hit our horn headlines from my man Patrick. Get informed and educated about the big headlines of the day. We'll get into Rod's rant. It won't be, well, you know what? We'll push it maybe, because I do want to talk a little bit about the Texans too and their latest acquisition if we get a little time. So maybe we'll do that and my Raj rant at the same time, and we'll kind of package those items, because I want to obviously devote as much time as we can to talking Texas basketball. And there's a message from my man Michael Huff, legendary lifetime Longhorn, for the fans, the Texas fans of the women's basketball team, because they're going to be in action tonight versus Drexel. But we'll play the audio from my man, a message that Michael Huff has for the Texas fans out there. Before we do, let's get the horn headlines from my man Patrick Davis.
All right, your horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas men's basketball got a win over in the first round of the NCAA tournament last night, 56-44 over Colorado State. In a game where Texas shot 1 of 14 from three, defense led the way, holding the Rams to 11 first-half points. Texas will take on Tennessee and former coach Rick Barnes on Saturday in the round of 32. Around the tournament were several notable upsets, including 11-seed Duquesne over BYU, 11-seed Oregon over South Carolina, 11-seed NC State over Texas Tech, and most notable, number 14-seed Oakland beating a tournament favorite Kentucky 80-76. The NCAA Women's Tournament begins today with the Longhorn women's team taking on Drexel at 2 p.m. at the Moody Center. Texas baseball will start their series against a struggling Baylor team tonight. The Longhorn will change up their starting pitching, still leaning on LeBaron Johnson Jr. for the start on Friday, but handing the ball to Ace Whitehead on Saturday and Max Grubbs on Sunday. Texas softball will stay in Florida this weekend, starting a series in Orlando against UCF tonight. In the NBA, the Mavericks handed the Jazz a 113-97 loss behind 34 points from Luka Doncic and a solid performance from Daniel Gafford, who had 24 points in the win. And finally, the Houston Rockets continued their push for a play-in spot with a win over the Bulls, 127-117. The Rockets remain just 2.5 games back from the 10 spot with 13 games left in the season. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We also have some audio that we're going to play from Rodney Terry talking about the game and really talking about some of the adjustments they made and the whole kind of vibe of the game for Texas. And it was a very strange game, but Rodney Terry found a way to coach his team up and keep them motivated enough and keep them with the intensity level high enough for them to pull out the win against Colorado State. So we'll hear from Rodney Terry here coming up. But one of the things I thought, Patrick, that was really telling was the start to the game. You mentioned this too. It's 8-2 to start the game. Colorado State, they start hot. Texas started with 1 of 7 from the field, and it's 8-2, and there's an official TV timeout. And I love what you just said about that's when Rodney Terry told him, all right, nobody's shooting 3-pointers.
No, we're going to the bank. Get in the paint.
Right? Except for Max Asimus, except for Thunder Suit. Those are our guys. At that point, also, the defensive intensity ratcheted up tremendously. I don't know if it was a mentality thing, schematic thing, could have been something strategic as well. But that's when the drought for Colorado State starts. Now, also, their offensive ineptitude also is a big part of this. So it's not all Texas, but Texas did play some elite level defense. They were on an 8.5-minute drought, essentially. Colorado State, and didn't score. And
they scored 3 points in the rest of the entire second half.
It's crazy.
They hit a 3. The rest of the half. They hit a 3. That was it. That was their offensive output for the rest of the half after that first TV timeout.
3 points in 15 minutes, basically.
Yeah. I think there's 2 parts of that too. One is Texas defense stepped up. Texas wasn't missing threes, which those threes turn into long rebounds, which turn into pushing your defense back quicker, which puts you in mismatches, not where you want to be defensively. There also adds into the fact that I think Colorado State went to that timeout feeling really good about themselves and thinking, okay, we can compete with this Texas team. We're there. We just got to stay the course, and not necessarily they didn't get the kick in the mouth they needed to really get them engaged and pushing forward. and they just, didn't have that fire and intensity. They also, Tyrese Hunter did a great job, and we'll play the clip on Isaiah Stevens. And basically what has been happening to Max Abmas all season long, where they were trying to ball deny him and never let him get comfortable. And 3 or 4 feet behind the line, behind the 3-point line, just right up on you. Telling you, please, you can drive past me. We have Dylan Mitchell and Dylan DeSue behind me. I feel fine that if you try and drive in, that we're still going to be able to get the stop. All those pieces came out. But yeah, that red light when you saw at the beginning where, they basically saw that the 3-pointers were not falling, get to the paint. If you look at points in the paint for Texas has 30 points in the paint, 56 points total. So over half their points come in the paint. They hit 11 free throws. So 41 of their points are in the paint or free throws out of 56. That means 15 points came from somewhere outside. And a lot of those were just outside the paint. Were little floaters by Dylan DeSue that were just outside the paint, or a Dylan Mitchell when he puts up like that was the shots. And then you get a 1 3. So 12 points were basically just outside the paint. You basically had 3 points that came from far away from the basket in the entire game. And that was what you knew you had to do. If neither team's going to be really hot, if neither team's going to be pushing it, if you're not in a shootout and you're in a grind it out, let's go inside, just keep getting to the bucket. Just keep getting down, get the highest percentage shots you can get. That's what they did in this game. That's what you like to see continue. If they're going to allow you threes, make them step further and further off that 3-point line. Make them really have to collapse their defense so you can get Max Abmas open threes, and his will eventually start to fall. Tyrese Hunter's will eventually start to fall if you allow them that much space. But I like that Rodney Terry in this game understood what it was, understood they didn't have to go there. They just had to score. That's all you have to do is we just have to get points. We don't have to put up 70 in this game. This isn't a Big 12 game where where if we don't put up 70, then even though they have a good defense, we're screwed. We can win. We can win 56. Just get to the paint. We don't need the threes. Get to the paint.
No, exactly right. No, and they did. It was like I said, you got to give Rodney Terry credit because it did seem like and the players talked about it. Matter of fact, let's just play the clip. Here's Rodney Terry talking about the flow of the game, giving credit to a lot of his guys. And prior to this, and it was Dylan DeSue, I believe, they asked him, what was the catalyst for this defensive performance by Texas? And he just said, we had a really hard week of practice, and defense was our focus in practice. As a coach, you get what you emphasize.
Yep.
And Rodney Terry was emphasizing defense. Hopefully, now he's emphasizing a little bit more offense because that's what they're going to need. But here is Coach Terry talking about how the flow of this game worked out and the adjustments made by Texas were really, really effective.
No, Eric, I thought they got off to a pretty good start offensively. We had some really good looks offensively and shots that we would take any day of the week as well. But tonight we didn't really let it affect our defense. We came back down. We started sitting down and getting some stops. Our staff did a great job with the one-day prep, getting our guys to really buy into understanding, this team here is a team that really attacks the paint. Colorado State wants to play inside out, and they're elite at it. They're an elite passing team, elite cutting team. I thought our guys did a really good job of trying to take Isaiah out. He's really important to those guys. The last 10 seconds of the shot clock, we wanted somebody else to have to make a play. We didn't really want their post guys to get deep post. And as a result of that, we wanted to get stops and try to push it and play a little faster ourselves and see if we could get some paint touches. A big paint touch game for us as well, playing inside out and trying to score that way as well. I think we were able to do that at a pretty high clip. Brock came in, brought a lot of energy. What Kendall's going to bring to the table defensively for us coming in there. Everyone's going to look at the box score and see Tyrese with 8 points. He did an incredible job on Stevens all night. I thought he took that challenge on, and we challenged him. Hey, you're going to one of the best players in the country. We need you to bring your A game defensively. He took that challenge on, did it for a better part of the game, and did it with a smile on his face. And, again, Tyrese is all about winning this time of year.
All right, that's Rodney Terry. Giving some props to Tyrese Hunter and his effort defensively on Isaiah Stevens, who started that game 0 of 8. In the first half with 2 turnovers. I think he ended 4 of 16, something like that.
Yeah,
with
10 points.
Yeah. But no, you're right, Tyree. He wasn't. They weren't necessarily impactful points. Tyrese Hunt did a great job of taking him out of the game. Okay, before we get to the break, and we'll get into Rod's rant on the other side, we got some NFL discussion. Also, we're going to expand on a rant I had earlier this week about Quinn Ewers, something he needs to improve on for his draft stock. And he just kind of worked out a little tease workout, if you will, a little teaser for NFL scouts when he threw at the Texas Pro Day. So we'll get into that on the other side. But here is legendary lifetime Longhorn Michael Huff. The ladies are in action tonight. They'll be playing Drexel at the Mood, and he has a message for all the Texas women's basketball fans out there.
What's up, UT students? Michael Huff here. Y'all know what's going on Friday at 2. We got a big game in Moody Center. Let's come out and support our Big 12 champion, one-seeded Longhorns. I know y'all will come out and bring the juice, have a big impact on the game, and fill this place up. So all student tickets are on me. UT students, just bring your UTID to the Southwest box office, and there'll be tickets there on me. And when we win Friday, I'll do it again Sunday. Hook 'em.
All right. So sorry, it ain't for all y'all. It's just for the students. Yeah, I said the message was for all Texas women's basketball fans. I was wrong about that. I was mistaken. It's just for the students. But there you go. If you're a student, you're lucky day, my man. Huff Dad's gonna buy the tickets. How much you think that's gonna run them? How much you think that's gonna cost?
You know what? I bet he got a deal.
If he's actually paying for the ticket, yeah, I don't know if he's maybe it just be a promotion, but if he's actually paying for it, how much is that gonna cost him? You think?
I mean, decent amount. How many
students gonna go?
A decent.
I don't know. I'm actually because I'll go look at the ticket prices and see. I'm sure he's getting like some kind of bulk discount rate of something. Yeah. They should be, and the Longhorn, the family discount too. He's a legendary lifetime Longhorn, so he's probably getting them. Half off something.
These are NCAA tournament games, so they are run differently than Texas games. I know when we used to do them. I've done them. I've worked them a few times. You have to have different identification. You can't use the one you've been using all season long. You have to have different badges. You have to be signed up in a different thing. True. So it could be. He could be getting charged full price.
So they got to cost more. They definitely cost more than regular season tickets.
This is like having an open bar inviting the wrong people. I don't want to.
This could go horribly wrong for Huff Daddy. I know he's trying to help out the ladies, but it can go horribly wrong, man. If all the students are like, this message gets around.
Michael Huff's going to be trying to make an NFL comeback after this. I don't know.
Hey, yeah, exactly, right? He's going to get that bill and be like, say what? Excuse me? What? Y'all got a payment plan? No, I mean, Huff Dad. I'm sure he's got it taken care of. But I am curious, so I wonder. I would love for them to keep track of how many students came. Because if you're a student, is he just going to pay for all the students who come? Or do you have to go up there and go, I want the Huff Daddy deal? You know what I mean? Or are they gonna say, all right, it'll be whatever it is, like it'll be $20 if you want a ticket, or do you have to mention, hey, can I get the Huff Daddy deal? Or if you're just a student, show your ID, it's on Huff Daddy automatically.
Yeah, that's what I feel like too. It's gonna be funny when these kids are like, this guy named Michael Huff said he'd give out free tickets, and all their parents are like, yeah, Michael Huff. How do you not know him?
This guy named Mike. You're right about that. That's a good joke. This guy named Michael Huff, and Dad's like, it's Huff Daddy, by the way. That's what we call him. All right, we come back. We'll get into some NFL discussion. Also, I got a little bit more advice, but I have something that I think Quinn needs to improve on. I think it's going to be NFL scouts are using this buzz term a lot more. And I remember looking at this stat about Quinn and thinking to myself, oh, man, that is a really troubling number for him. But now it may be even more troubling because the NFL is starting to see this as a really important data point in evaluation of quarterbacks. We'll discuss that when we come back. This is the Rodcast.